Welcome everyone. Today we're going to be talking about optional insurance coverages. These include what's called PIP coverage, collision, and uninsured motorist coverages. So far we've talked about the required minimum liability insurance. These would be additional types of coverage that help protect other aspects of your life and your financial future. By the end of this lecture, you should be able to know what they do and do not cover, when they apply, and what are some common considerations for when you might consider buying them. Let's get started. The first one we're going to talk about is called PIP coverage. It stands for Personal Injury Protection, and is just commonly called PIP in the industry. This helps pay for injuries and lost wages to you and your passengers in an accident. So remember, liability insurance only covers people outside of your vehicle for bodily injury. This is like bodily injury, but for you. So it's for people in your car. It does not pay for people outside your vehicle. So this covers costs when you or someone else is at fault. It does not matter who's at fault for this coverage. If people in your vehicle or you are injured, it starts covering your costs to get medical care. The coverage limits are defined by you. So you choose, hey, I want X amount of coverage for PIP insurance. Now your insurance company will set sort of like benchmarks of like $25,000, $50,000, $75,000. So you can't be like, hey, I want $1,755 of PIP insurance. But you choose what the coverage limit is because it's not required by the state or anything. You can choose whatever limit you want. But the more, obviously, the higher the limit, the more the insurance company will help pay for, and the more expensive your insurance premiums will be each month. So when should you consider PIP coverage? So it's always good to have. Because it covers your injury. So if you get injured in an auto accident, it'll help cover that. But once you start a family, it's where it really starts getting important. If you're driving somewhere with 3 or 4 people in your family and you get into an accident and there are several people injured, those medical bills can really pile up. And the lost wages and income, all these things can just really pile up on you. So the larger your family gets, the more important it is to consider PIP insurance. And then just really be sure to update your PIP coverage whenever you add new family members. So if someone's living with you and on your policy, make sure that you're considering whether your PIP coverage is adequate for that other people in your household. The next one we're going to talk about is called collision coverage. So just like property damage liability covers people outside your vehicle, collision coverage is what covers your vehicle and your property. So this is all the stuff inside your vehicle. So it's sort of the opposite of property damage liability. Instead of covering outside, it's covering your stuff. And it also, just like PIP coverage, it covers no matter who's at fault. So you're at fault, they're at fault. It kicks in to help cover your costs for your vehicle and property. Coverage limits, once again, you choose your coverage limit. Just know that the higher the coverage limit, the more you have to pay in premiums. But when should you consider getting collision coverage? If you want help paying for damages to your vehicle and property, that's when you want to get it. So if you've got a car that's not worth very much, it may not be worth getting collision coverage because you're like, well, it's only a few $1,000 car. If I crash it, whatever, I'm just going to move on from it. And I'll pay that money myself to get a new car. If the value of a vehicle exceeds $10,000, this is when you really want to start considering collision coverage. If you get into an accident and the other person causes the accident, and their insurance, if they have minimum insurance, will only cover $10,000 of cost to your vehicle, that means you have to fight for that extra money from them. Well, if you have collision coverage on your policy, your insurance company will pay the rest of your vehicle's cost. And then your insurance company will fight for that additional money from the other person. You're out of it. Life is easy. So that's the sums you want to consider collision coverage. The third one we're going to talk about is called uninsured, underinsured motorist coverage, and it's pretty descriptive there. So this kicks in when someone else causes the accident and their insurance isn't adequate to cover all your costs. So that's like if they're underinsured. or if they're completely uninsured. And this only covers costs when someone else is at fault. So when you cause an accident, you're not using their insurance, so this wouldn't kick in if you're at fault, only when someone else is at fault. And only when their insurance doesn't cover your costs. Like the other optional coverages, you get to choose how much your coverage limit is. You'll consider coverage limits to help fill in costs for both bodily injury and property losses. So this one, when you should consider having it, it's always a good idea to have. As the cost of your vehicle and size of your household increases, it becomes even more important to have. So on the collision side, you might be thinking, oh, I'll just get enough collision to cover after that first $10,000 from the other person's insurance. The trick with that is if they don't have insurance, then you don't get that money. And about 16.5% of drivers in Washington State don't have auto insurance. That's up from just 6% prior to the pandemic. And this makes us one of the highest states with the highest uninsured motorist rates. It's a real problem in Washington State, and it's still going up. Last year it was only 13% of people. Now it was 16.5%. It really puts you in a precarious place financially if you get into an accident without insurance. All right, let's go through an example problem here. So we have Lindsay, who has minimum liability coverage, and she has $10,000 of collision coverage. She add a little bit more to her policy, and she caused an accident with Ben. Ben also has minimum liability insurance, but he has $30,000 of PIP coverage, and he was injured in the accident, resulting in medical bills of $40,000, and his car was totaled and had a value of $48,000. 2 passengers had injuries, each $15,000 each for Ben. And Lindsay had medical bills and lost wages and damaged her car as well. So let's get after this. So this new table is a little more complex because we have more things going on. So the person at fault is here, and that is Lindsay. Whoops, let me get my pen going. Sorry about that. Okay, so I'm going to put Lindsay here, and I'm going to put Ben over here. So it's Lindsay's responsibility to pay for the accident. She's got minimum liability coverage, so that means she has $10,000 of PID, property or PDL, property damage liability. So paid by insurance is $10,000, and that's the PDL property. Out of pocket for Lindsay is $30,000. So woo, that hurts. So she's going to pay $30,000. Ben, the $48,000 was covered. Wait, did I just do that wrong? Oh, I just did that wrong. Okay, so this was actually Ben's medical bills. I apologize for that. Yeah, I'm gonna have to erase that. All right, I was not paying attention. So again, this is Lindsay. This is Ben. This is $40,000 in medical bills. Yeah, resulting in medical bills of $40,000. So Lindsay's insurance has minimum liability. So her bodily injury will cover $25,000 per person, max $50,000 per accident. So Ben gets $25,000 paid towards his medical bills. And that's going to come from BIL. And that leaves $15,000 out of pocket for Lindsay to have to pay herself. Ben has $48,000, and what's that one? His car. Okay, so this is where the $10,000 comes in. So property damage liability, PDL, goes here. And then the out-of-pocket is going to be $38,000 for Lindsay. Ooh, that's getting expensive for Lindsay. There were some more passenger injuries. So here, 2 passenger injuries, $15,000 each. So that's under $25,000, so it will still pay here. $15,000, and that's bodily injury liability. Now I have to be careful. She's already used $25,000 plus $15,000. That's $40,000. There's only $10,000, so zero out of pocket on that one. There's only $10,000 left in that $50,000 limit, so she's going to put $10,000 here, and that's BIL. And then the out of pocket is going to be $5,000 for Lindsay on this one. Whew, that's going to get expensive fast. All right, now Lindsay's damage is $7,500. So her liability insurance won't cover her damage, but she has $10,000 of collision coverage, which pays for her property in case of an accident. And which one is this one? Wages. So that's medical bills and then damage to her car. So she has no medical insurance. She has no PIP insurance. So she's going to get zero paid by her policy. And she's going to have that $7,500 out of pocket. And then here she's got $10,000 of coverage. So she's going to get paid by her insurance is $5,700. Policy type would be the collision coverage, CC. Out of pocket, zero. All right, so her total out of pocket here is $43, $53, $58, $65,500. So $65,500 will be her out of pocket expense for this very bad accident. All right, so now we've got to go over to Ben's side. And you might be thinking, well, Ben didn't cause the accident, but he might have some insurance that'll kick in and help him, because right now he's got to sue Lindsay for $65,000. He's probably not going to get that money. So he's going to have maybe he has some insurance that can help. So he has minimum liability insurance. For this accident, that's garbage because it only kicks in when he's at fault. But he also has $30,000 in PIP coverage, which covers his medical bills, even when someone else is at fault. So right now, he had medical bills of $15,000 for him. His insurance is going to step up and say, hey, we're paying that for you. Here's that $15,000 because we have $30,000 of coverage. And that is going to be Ben's PIP coverage is kicking in. Out of pocket for Ben now is zero. He doesn't have to try and sue Lindsay. For this person's injuries, $15,000, it's already paid for, so good. $5,000 wasn't paid for, so Ben's insurance is going to step up and say, hey, we're going to kick in $5,000 for this person, and that's the PIP policy, zero out of pocket for Ben. On this one, $48,000, Ben didn't have any collision coverage. So his insurance isn't going to pay anything, and his out-of-pocket is going to be $38,000 unless he can sue Lindsay and get that money from her. Yeah. This one, everything was paid for, so I'll just put dashes here because that was all paid for already. And then, obviously, Ben's not going to kick in and help Lindsay out at all. So these are non-existent as well. No one's helping out. So for Ben, he's only out $38,000. So by having that additional PIP coverage, it kicked in and helped him out. Now, Lindsay's not off the hook. Ben's insurance company is going to sue Lindsay to try to get this money back they spent on PIP. So this $20,000 they spent, they're going to try and get that money back from Lindsay. But the nice thing for Ben, he doesn't have to worry about that. That's the insurance company's fault. He's made okay. All right, that was a lot to go through. Hopefully you were able to rewind that and listen to it a few times if you needed to. So what types of coverage could Lindsay consider? Well, if she had some PIP coverage, if she had some PIP coverage, personal injury protection, she would have had her medical bills paid as well. So she could have saved on this if she had some PIP coverage. So maybe she thinks about that in the future. Also, if she had increased liability insurance, so if she goes from the minimum and goes up to a larger liability coverage, maybe she gets up to $50,000 in property damage, and maybe $100,000 in bodily injury liability, she would be clear of this accident as well. So it's a time to think of increasing those minimum coverages. And then for Lindsay, I think that's the two big ones. It says 3 types. I don't know why I put 3 types on there. 3 types. Increase in property damage liability, increase in bodily injury liability, and then to get some PIP coverage as well. All right. What 2 types of coverage should Ben consider? So he did a good job by having some PIP coverage. He might consider a little more of this even maybe, but also he might consider getting some collision coverage. He has a fairly expensive vehicle and he's leaving that out there to be maybe damaged and unpaid for. So definitely some collision coverage. And then some underinsured motorist coverage might also help him as well. When Lindsay's coverage didn't kick in, it would kick in. All right, my friends, good job today. I hope that was helpful. I know it's confusing. Take your time with it. It's a big thing. Getting the exact numbers in the exact right places is not the goal. The goal of this unit is to give you a feel for how the process works. In reality, the insurance companies are going to fuss with each other to figure out who pays exactly what. The nice thing if you have enough insurance is you don't have to worry about any of that. It's just all going to get taken care of and you're going to move on with your life. All right, my friends, have a great one and we'll see you soon.